Do nursing homes lie when charting about residents? The answer in my experience is yes, absolutely. It's called false charting. Now, how do I know this? Because I've seen it. I've seen nursing homes charting on residents after the resident has died. You know, it's kind of hard to take a dead resident to the bathroom and give him medications for 2 days, but I've seen nursing home charts that say that. I've also seen nursing homes charting on care they provided to residents that aren't even in the facility. They were in the hospital. All the while, the nursing home employees are charting about the care that they're providing to them. And I've seen nursing homes chart that a resident's skin was pink and free of wounds, when in fact, that resident had a large bed sore. My name's David Terry. I'm a nursing home abuse and neglect attorney in St. Louis, handling cases throughout Missouri and Illinois. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about a subject that the nursing home industry does not want to talk about: false charting, which is really just a fancy way of saying, hey, let's talk about when nursing homes lie about the care that they give to residents. Now, some of you might be thinking, David, that just sounds too extreme. Are you sure? Well, let me be very clear. Not every nursing home engages in intentional fraudulent documentation. But let me be equally clear that some nursing homes do engage in intentional fraudulent documentation. Now, I think it's rare, but it's naive to believe that it doesn't happen. And look, not every documentation problem is intentional fraud. Nursing homes are understaffed and staff members are overworked, and sometimes nurses just don't have time to chart when they do something, and they try to recreate their charting at the end of their shift, and they make mistakes. Now, that shouldn't happen, but it does. So yeah, there are honest mistakes. But look, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that just as often as someone makes a charting mistake, there's another nurse charting that she repositioned a resident when in fact she didn't reposition that resident. And then it becomes easy to do, and before you know it, a resident who has supposedly been repositioned every 2 hours really hasn't been, and now they have a gaping wound in their backside, leading family members to question the truth of the entire nursing home chart. So in this video, I'm going to show you the red flags that I look for when I'm reviewing nursing home records. These are the patterns that tell me that something in the chart just doesn't add up. Red flag number 1, the chart doesn't match what you personally witnessed. Now, you know something's wrong when what the nursing home charted doesn't match what you witnessed with your own eyes. Well, let's say that you visit your mom at 2 p.m. She's in distress. Maybe she's in soiled clothing. Maybe she's clearly dehydrated. And maybe she's complaining of pain that's being ignored. And then when you request the chart, and the nurse's note from that same 2 p.m. time period says, resident is resting comfortably, no complaints. Well, that just doesn't add up. Or let's take another example. You see a bed sore developing on your loved one's back, and it's red, and it's angry, and it's clearly been there for days. But the skin assessment from that same week says, skin intact, no breakdown noted. And again, this just doesn't add up. Now, these aren't misunderstandings. These are contradictions, and they raise serious questions about whether the documentation reflects reality or whether someone is writing what they wish had happened instead of what had actually happened. Now, let's talk about what you should do. If you have concerns about whether the facility is charting accurately, I recommend that you gather evidence first before you confront them about anything. So start documenting your visits. What is mom's condition during the visit? Identify dates and times of your visits. Arrival time, times nurses came into the room, what nurses did when they were in the room, the name of each nurse or aide that does something for your mom while you're there. And by the way, getting names is so helpful for lawyers. I mean, you don't even know how helpful that is, so please get those names. And then, of course, what is your departure time? Everything you do and everything that you witness. Second, take pictures and videos every time you visit, preferably pictures and videos with timestamps. Now, why is this so important? Because when you request those medical records later, you will have something to compare them against other than just your memory. And if the chart doesn't match your documentation and your photographic evidence, that tells you really everything you need to know. Red flag number 2, charting on residents who aren't even there. This is one of the most blatant forms of falsification that I have personally seen. And like I said, I've seen charts where the nursing home staff is charting on residents who are in the hospital or who are dead. They're giving them medication, they're repositioning them, they're taking them to the bathroom, which again is pretty hard to do when they're not there. And look, there is no innocent explanation for this. You can't provide care to someone who isn't there. You can't give medications to someone who has passed away. Now, they can try to spin it that it was just a mistake or something. And if it was a wrong entry for one item on one shift, okay, I get that. Mistakes do happen, no problem. But days of charting on a deceased resident? No, that's not a mistake. That's intentional and it's fraud. When I see this in discovery, it tells me one of two things. Either staff were so disconnected from actual care that they didn't even know that the resident was gone, or someone was filling in documentation after the fact or on the go without checking whether it made any sense. Either way, it's a massive red flag about the reliability of everything else in that chart. After all, if they'll chart on a dead resident, what else are they willing to chart on that isn't true? Red flag number 3. Their story just keeps changing. The changing story after a resident falls, for example, is a pattern that I see over and over and over again in nursing home cases. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this story in one form or another. And basically it goes like this. The nursing home calls you and says that mom fell and she was taken to the hospital complaining of pain in her hip. And of course you ask, well, how did she fall? And you're told, well, she was trying to walk by herself when she shouldn't have and she fell in the hallway. So you accept that as fact and you move on. Well, when mom returns to the same facility after surgery, a nurse tells you, well, that your mom fell in her room and she was found by a nurse's aide after she began calling for help. And then another nurse's aide tells you that she actually fell when one nurse was transferring her from a wheelchair to her bed, when her care plan says that 2 nurses are supposed to be helping in that transfer. Do you see the problem? They can't all be true. And then when you get the records, you discover that the charting for that event is either missing completely or key facts are left out. The charting on your mom's fall may go something like this. Resident was found on the floor. Resident verbalized no complaints, notified physician and family. That's absolutely no help at all, is it? I know there are many of you out there who are watching this and you're nodding your head up and down. And you're saying, yep, that's exactly what happened to me. So look, do you think that this is vague charting by accident or just sloppy? I don't think it's by accident and I don't think it's sloppy. I think it's intentional. I think this is a technique that they use to try to protect themselves from liability. But here's the problem for the nursing home. Under federal regulatory rules, nursing home medical records are supposed to be complete, accurate, and created according to accepted professional standards. And when I see charting that leaves out key details of what happened, where it happened, and who, if anyone, was present when it happened, that's a huge red flag, especially when the verbal explanations are all over the map. Vague, non-descriptive charting that provides basically no information is not consistent with accepted professional standards. And by the way, charting on dead people, that kind of violates accepted professional standards too. Red flag number 4, documentation that's too perfect. Now here's something that surprises people. Perfect charting can actually be a red flag. Documentation can be too good, too perfect. Now think about when you watch a crime drama on TV and the police bring in multiple witnesses. If they all tell slightly different versions of what happened, the detective knows that they're probably telling the truth because that's how our memory works. Everyone sees things a little differently. Everyone has their own angle of how they see and interpret things, and that's how it comes out in their statement. But when all the witnesses give the exact same story, word for word, down to the smallest detail, well, that's when the detective knows that they got together and they rehearsed their statement. That's when he knows something's being covered up. Medical documentation works the same way. When charts are too perfect, same language, same times, same descriptions, day after day after day, that tells me someone either went back and filled in what they thought should be there rather than what actually happened, or there's a script that the facility uses for day-to-day charting. Now here's something most families don't realize. Real documentation from a busy nursing home shift can sometimes be a bit messy or inconsistent. It's kind of expected if there are 1 or 2 things missed here or there. I mean, you can't give a resident his medication at exactly 9 a.m. every single day for 2 years straight. Real life just doesn't work that way. So when I see a perfect nursing home chart, it tells me something's probably off here. It's time to dig a little deeper. Red flag number 5, missing documentation. Sometimes the red flag isn't what's in the chart, it's what's missing from the chart. The classic example here is repositioning a resident who is at risk for developing bed sores. Missouri regulatory rules require nursing homes to reposition residents who can't move themselves at least every 2 hours. That's not a suggestion, that's state law. I have never in 25 years seen a nursing home chart that consistently documents that they repositioned a resident every 2 hours. In fact, it's probably more accurate to say that most charts I have seen hardly ever chart that a resident was repositioned every 2 hours. Yet when I get those nurses in deposition and I ask them about it, they will testify, like one nurse I remember, who insisted that the resident was repositioned every 2 hours because that's what we do. That was her proof. That's what we do. I said, well, can you show me in the records where it's documented that this resident was repositioned every 2 hours? Her response was, of course, because that's what we do. I bet we went back and forth on that issue for 5 minutes with me showing her a chart nearly devoid of any documentation about repositioning and her response being, we did it because that's what we do. Almost every nurse will admit that in nursing school, they learned the phrase, quote, if it's not charted, it's not done, end quote. Most will also admit that the nursing home tells them the same thing. And look, I think that it's true. If you see a chart that is devoid of key information, that is bad news for the nursing home because more than likely, if they can't prove it was done, then it wasn't done. Red flag number 6, hospital records that contradict nursing home records. This is often the most damning evidence in a nursing home case. Your loved one is sent to the hospital. The ER physician documents what they actually see. A stage 4 pressure ulcer on the sacrum, severe dehydration, malnutrition, an untreated urinary tract infection that's now gone septic, or fractures that are days old. And then you go back and you review the nursing home chart from the week before that hospitalization, and according to the nursing home, everything is fine. Skin's intact, eating well, hydrated, no concerns noted, no complaints of pain, ambulating without difficulty. That disconnect between what the hospital found and what the nursing home documented is almost impossible for the nursing home to explain away. Because the hospital, they got no reason to lie. They're documenting what they see so they can treat it. And when the hospital records contradict nursing home records, that tells me that the nursing home wasn't documenting reality. They were documenting a fiction. What do you need to do if you suspect false documentation by the nursing home? Step 1 are the things that I already told you about, where you take good notes, you take videos, you take pictures, all those things that I mentioned earlier on. Step 2, request the records and do it in writing and do it according to your particular state's law. Typically, if you're the legal representative, power of attorney, or next of kin, you have the right to your loved one's medical records. And what you have to provide to the facility depends on whether the resident is living or deceased. But once you've sent them the proper documentation and authorizations, remember to ask for everything, the complete chart, medication administration records, often called the MARs, the pharmacy records, the treatment administration records, called the TARs, the CNA flow sheets, wound care documentation, MDS documentation, care plans, progress notes, physician orders, physician notes, dietary documentation, activities documentation. Don't get summaries, don't get recent entries, get everything. Step 3, preserve everything you receive. Ask for the records in PDF form, but if you get them in paper form, make sure you scan them immediately. Save at least one copy that you don't touch. Why? Because that first set that you get matters if you later learn that there are more documents that weren't provided to you. And if you get the records in paper format, please don't write on them. That document can't be used in litigation if you've written on it. And if you need to write on it, make a copy and then write on the copy. Step 4, compare the records to reality. Pull out your own documentation, your photos, your notes from visits. Compare those to what the chart says happened at the same time. If you get the pharmacy records, compare those to the medication records. If your loved one was hospitalized, get those hospital records and compare them to what the nursing home documented in the days before transfer. Look for contradictions. Look for impossibilities. Look for gaps. Those are the red flags that tell you that there might be a problem with the nursing home chart. Step 5, talk to an attorney who handles nursing home cases and do it quickly. If you're seeing red flags in the documentation, don't wait. An attorney who regularly handles these types of cases knows what to look for. We can spot patterns that you might miss because we've been doing it for so long. And we can explain what the law requires and what your options are. Once litigation starts, we can bring in forensic nursing experts to review the charts and testify about impossible timelines or missing documentation and care that couldn't have occurred given the injuries that the resident has. Once the litigation is started, lawyers can also subpoena electronic health record metadata to see when injuries were actually created, not just what they say. We can sometimes even recover information that's been deleted or altered, and we can take depositions of staff members and force them to explain contradictions under oath. But the sooner you act, the better. As time marches on, memories fade, and there are some who might even try to fix the records along the way. Let me tell you why I'm so direct about this topic. When nursing homes falsify records, it's not just a paperwork violation. It's evidence of a much bigger problem. Because if they're willing to lie in writing about the care that they provided, what else are they willing to lie about? When families can't trust the medical record, they can't know if the facility is telling them the truth about their loved one's care. Are they telling the truth about a fall or an injury, a medication error, bed sores, or just the overall reason for their loved one's decline? Is it really just the natural progression of aging, or is the facility hiding wrongs that they committed that caused the resident's injuries? False charting is not just a violation of law. It's also a violation of trust. Anyone who is watching this that has placed a loved one in a nursing home will probably agree that when visiting the facility, they told you all these great things about themselves. Things like, we'll take care of your mom like we take care of our own mom. Things like that. And look, most people have no reference point when they are placing a loved one in a facility, so they believe what they're told. And when you find out that the nursing home is lying to your face and they're charting about the care that they gave to your mom incorrectly, that's crushing. In the 25 years that I've been handling nursing home cases, I have found that nursing homes are generally most interested in self-preservation. Most of them have no compunction against lying if it protects them from being held accountable for providing bad care. Now, I understand self-preservation, we all do, but I also understand the concept of truthfulness and accountability. And from my perspective as a lawyer who handles cases against the nursing home industry, I think false charting is really very short-sighted. You might get away with it, but if you get caught, the entire case changes. The facility's credibility collapses, and their explanations fall apart, and it makes my job so much easier. So look, I'm a lawyer, so I have to give you a disclaimer. This is general information based on my experience. It's not legal advice for your specific situation. Every case is different, and if you have concerns about your loved one's care or the accuracy of their medical records, talk to an attorney in your area who handles nursing home cases. If you're in Missouri or Illinois, feel free to call our office. If you're somewhere else, we can try to help you find an attorney in your state who regularly handles these cases as well. Now you know the red flags that I look for when reviewing nursing home documentation. The documentation problems are just one piece of the puzzle. In my next video, I'm going to show you something even more specific, the exact MDS data points that prove that a fall risk was identified and ignored. Because even when the daily charting looks pretty good and pretty clean, the MDS assessment often tells a very different story. And if your loved one has suffered a fall or unexplained injury, my video entitled 5 MDS Data Points That Help Prove a Fall Was Preventable will show you where to look for the proof that the facility knew about the risk and failed to act. Watch for that next. It could be the key to getting your answers. And I'll see you over there.